4 years after the federal government's promise to fix decrepit housing in the Northern Territory's Aboriginal communities, the government there appears to be failing to manage Indigenous rental properties. The Commonwealth promised about 1,000 new homes and 3,000 renovations at a cost of $1.7 billion. The scheme is now ahead of target, with hundreds of people living in new or refurbished homes. But Territory Housing's accounts are a shambles. Kate Wild reports.
Dale Alfred is the man who brought to light a government account full of mystery money. He lives on Bathurst Island, 80 kilometres north of Darwin. Most people here live in public housing managed by the Northern Territory government agency Territory Housing. But Dale is an exception. He lives with his parents in one of the island's few privately owned homes. 18 months ago, Dale started a job at the local takeaway shop. His boss set up an automatic rental payment from Dale's wage direct to Territory Housing.
Well, I was working at the takeaway store and I seen they were taking my payslip, they were taking out money. So I went and seen my boss and he just said he assumed that we were paying rent when we owned the house. And I went and seen Territory Housing and they didn't have any record. So, yeah, they didn't know what was going on.
So Dale turned to the North Australian Aboriginal Justice Agency.
When we went to Territory Housing to request a refund of our clients' money, we were told there was no record. We were quite shocked to find out how bad it was, because we thought it might have just been a one-off case, and then when we went and spoke to them, we soon realised that this wasn't just our client. A majority of people who reside in remote housing in the remote communities are in the same situation.
What impression does NAJA have of how much money might be involved?
Well, we've been informed that, it's in the millions.
I've spoken to lawyers in Darwin who've been told by staff at Territory Housing, we've got millions of dollars of rent sitting in an account, but we don't know who's paid it to us or which houses it's for.
That's certainly not my understanding, that there's millions of dollars of unrecognised rent, if you like.
2 days later, Territory Housing conceded they were holding $1.39 million of unreconciled rent. The account represents thousands, possibly tens of thousands of untraced rental payments, and there may be more. Lateline knows of thousands of dollars of erroneous payments that Territory Housing agrees it should not have been paid, and admits it has not counted in the $1.39 million. In a recent report, the Commonwealth Ombudsman said record keeping for Territory's remote housing system was seriously flawed.
Territory Housing has difficulties identifying whether people are paying rent when they should not, or conversely, not paying rent when they should.
There is no knowing how much lost money is waiting to be found. Historically, dozens of local organisations and shire councils have managed remote housing. Territory Housing only took over 4 years ago, following the federal intervention. When the Commonwealth promised $1.7 billion to upgrade remote houses, it contracted Territory Housing to manage the people who lived in them.
It is a huge challenge, there's no doubt about it. There has been decades of neglect. The scale of the housing work we're undertaking in the Northern Territory is unprecedented, not only in terms of the build program, but in terms of the very important public housing regime we've got underpinning that. They're all important elements that we're working on very hard at the same time.
The Northern Territory Ombudsman says the federal government is leaving Territory Housing to solve an extremely complex problem.
They don't know who receives the rent in some cases. They don't know how much rent is paid for each property. Territory Housing has been left to manage it without proper planning, without proper funding, and given that background, I feel sorry for them, but that doesn't excuse the fact that this is a very severe case of very bad public administration.
Talking about the future, that's why we're here today.
It is Commonwealth money that is paying for this, and it's not, in my view, appropriate for the Commonwealth agency responsible to just stand back and say, well, there's the money, you do it, knowing full well that it's not established, it's not planned, the IT systems aren't there, the records aren't there.
Back on Bathurst Island, Dale Alfred and his family are worried no matter who takes responsibility, the level of service will stay the same.
It's like just because we're blackfellas, service is, sorry about the French, shitty. I mean, there's no quality service here, and people are treated in a way that is not acceptable anywhere else in this country. I mean, why?
Kate Wild, Lateline.